Today, we're here to discuss life with ADHD, all the treatments, shortcomings, and some terrible accidents from a whole new perspective that I am unable to deliver myself. One of my dear friends, Samah. Samah has been my friend since I moved to Germany. We met in university, and we recently both found out that we have ADHD. We've been discussing it so often that we thought we should probably record it and share it, and I have so many questions to ask you. Like, you grew up in Germany, there is at least a recognition for ADHD in Germany. It exists.
I mean, yes, the teachers noticed ADHD behavior, but they didn't label it as ADHD behavior, I guess.
No?
And no, it was just she likes to work on a project, but she loses focus. That was the feedback my parents got when there was a teacher-parents conference. So my parents reacted actually according to the teacher's feedback.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. How old were you then?
These feedbacks I got when I was like 6-7 years old.
And since then, after that, nothing was mentioned. It was just like that one time.
No, it was actually mentioned every
Every
time,
year?
every time during these conferences and in my report cards.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really unfortunate then. I thought
Although
it was
we
like
were
every then and again.
No. I mean, and although we lived in Germany, right? But I mean, so many years ago, like there was a different understanding to what ADHD is.
Oh, so I wanted to start by asking you when and how you got diagnosed. Obviously, it wasn't as a child or as a teenager. It was as an adult. So
Yes.
how
Yeah,
was
so
that for you?
it was exactly 2 years ago. I went to the psychiatrist and I was expecting him to tell me depression, but he didn't say it's depression. He said, he first asked, what do you think it is? He didn't jump to the diagnosis. It was he was like, so what do you think it is? And I was like maybe it's depression. And he was like, no, I think it's ADHD. And so we started the process. I mean, we have to do all these things to get the proper diagnosis for you.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Very good that you actually found someone who believes in it, because there are unfortunately psychiatrists that wouldn't never. So then you went through that normal diagnosis process with the questionnaires and visiting your doctor.
Yeah, the questionnaire thing I will never forget. It's like I don't know how many questions, like 300 questions
Really
or something.
Not ADHD friendly, to be honest.
No. So I sit there and I read the questions and I'm like, okay, it's like I would do the first page and the second page. I'm like, okay, this is, how many pages?
So annoying.
Then at some point I start to answer the questions on the last page and then these questions in the middle. It's just to get myself a little bit,
Oh, and you have to get your parents to answer them, or a partner.
No, because I had access to my school reports. That was what what the doctor needed.
But that's lucky. I had to ask my parents, and obviously that wasn't really easy. My second question was, how was life before the diagnosis?
It's not easy. It's not easy because you always feel like you're not doing enough. You do your homework, you study for a test, and you always go to the next exam and the next test, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to fail because I didn't do enough, right?
I feel like it's that way for so many of us, and it just feels so isolating and lonely and shameful. We always think, oh, I am a failure.
Yeah, especially when you see everyone around you is graduating and or you are doing the same exam for the second or the third time and everyone is winging it on the first time and you're like, wow, why am I the idiot in my friends group, right? Why is everyone not struggling and everyone is doing so fine and with ease and you're the only one like, what's happening? I'm not understanding anything.
You think you have to be like them and you start being ableist to yourself. I just have to, use this technique and try that kind of thing. And if it doesn't work, you feel even worse because it works for all these people and then not for me. We have to learn, and especially after diagnosis, I think that's something you can learn, is to unableism yourself.
Yeah, this is the thing what helped me the most when I got the diagnosis, to know it's not that I am stupid or I'm not smart or that I'm lazy or something. I'm really happy that I finally got to that point, right? But I wish I had it like 10 years prior.
Yes. It takes a long time even after you get the diagnosis to get there. Because that was going to be my next question. What are the biggest things that diagnosis changed for you?
I would say it took me a couple of weeks to get adjusted to it. I grieved. I actually grieved really, really for a couple of weeks for for all the struggles I had that were unnecessary if I would have had the right support. All the shame I had because of that. Like, you know, although I was happy that I got the diagnosis, the first couple of weeks, I was really, really, really sad for the person I could have been maybe if I had the right support from the start.
I know, and if I may tell the story of when you told me,
Yes.
may I tell that?
Yes, of course, if you want.
When we met that day, she was crying all the way. We went for a 4-hour walk or something, thinking about, oh, what could have been if it was so much earlier. I could have avoided these accidents, these failures, these wasted times. Why didn't this person, see that about me? And that's such an important thing to go through, because if you don't feel your feelings, you're just gonna bottle all of that shame and negativity up. The first few months really are a grieving process, and then eventually from there comes the healing.
At some point at some point, and
the healing is
the healing shouldn't be a rush at all. Step by step, but it feels like it takes forever because you want to heal and you don't want to feel bad anymore, and you don't want to feel like you are a failure because your doctor told you you are not a failure because you have ADHD. It doesn't. It's not like a switch.
There still, even today, probably it is for me. And that's where we can make maybe a little bit of marketing for therapy. Therapy is so helpful. She went, I went.
They can give you the right tools to actually cope with the situation. I'm still learning.
It is a skill.
Yeah.
Actually, adulting and getting to work with yourself as a human is a skill that you learn. You can also do it with coaching, also marketing for coaching. It's so hard to see things when you are stuck in your head. So it's helpful to have that one person on the outside that just gives you little pointers and helps you along the way. Are you on medication? What is your treatment going like? How are they working for you?
I am on medication, and it's been a life changer for me. Medication is like glasses for my brain. I mean, yes, I can see without my glasses. But I'm a danger to myself and others. At home, when I don't have to work and I don't have to do anything, I can manage without my glasses. But when I need to read something, I need to put them on, right? How should I focus if a million things are running in my head and a song and they are all competing at the same time? It's not possible, right? And I'm not getting superpowers of it. I'm not taking a medication and I'm like, yes, now I'm going to change the world. This is not going to happen. It just helps me thinking.
It's a bit better. And I think you also take Vyvanse. It's 40% improvement on symptoms at the best. According to one of the studies that I read from them, obviously it might be more for some people, but on average, that's what you can expect, which means you're still 60% ADHD, even on your best days. So it's good to set the right expectations. And
at some point, your body is going to, balance it out a little bit. Your brain is going to be like, this is not doing the same anymore.
It's not always that same strength.
And I think for people who start the medication, they should really utilize the first weeks where it works.
No pressure.
Really, don't be disappointed if it's not working as it used to. It's like with the first hit, right? Like, this is how the medication works. And maybe utilize the time to establish routines.
My next question is, what are the biggest things that medication has changed for you?
I'd say, like, the first thing, driving. It's the first thing my husband...
Thank God.
The first thing my husband actually realized, that when I took the medication and we drove to the city, he was like, oh, you drive so much faster. To me, it's a boring task. So to get myself engaged, I usually drive way too fast. I used to drive way too fast.
And in Germany, you can do that to a degree. Very dangerous.
And the second thing, I'd say, it's listening and hearing better. I went to the doctor actually, and they did test me for 3 hours. Like, they tested my ears for more than 3 hours to see if I'm actually hearing impaired or something like that. But my hearing is quite good.
Just you're not really paying attention to the people speaking. Because you hear everything at
Yeah,
the same
exactly,
time, so
exactly.
also nothing.
Let's say you are telling me something and I am distracted by a sound that is actually happening, like let's say 10 meters far away. I'm hearing it as loud as you are speaking. With the medication, it got way better, way better. It didn't get perfect. Of course, I'm going to get distracted here and there, but it's a world of a difference. You don't have the need to ask the same question 10 more times.
It makes a difference in how people perceive you.
Yes.
But also how you make
Yes.
friends. Because, to people, it's important that they are heard. And it's also terrible because you need to work to eat.
Yes.
In the society that we live in.
Yes, I mean the world is not going to stop for you, right? Like the world is not going to stop for you. So, and bills have to be paid.
Yeah, that's another thing
Yes.
to think about for people judging others taking medication is they're just trying to go to work and function properly. Yeah. It's not like they're getting 100 miles ahead of everyone else.
I wish. Another thing is eating. It's one of the few pleasures we have in life, I guess.
One of the biggest pleasures in life. Yes. And a huge dopamine deliverer.
Carbs are my love-hate relationship. I was actually like very obese, like at some point. So you introduced me to working out at some point, right? And because I have this all or nothing mentality, I went way too overboard with it. On the one side, it was good because I got to a healthy weight. But what wasn't good was I focused on what I eat way too much. I had to track every single thing that I put into my body. And with every single thing, I mean, like really one glove. I had to track 1 glove of garlic, 2 grams of salt. And although they don't make a difference on a bigger scale, especially if you are working out, right? And I didn't just work out. I had to go way overboard with working out every single day in the morning and in the evening. I actually developed an eating disorder.
Yeah. And I think I almost did too. And it probably comes from that all or nothing mentality because you cannot just do some workouts and some healthy eating. Like, exactly. Because the second you do something else and you start eating those snacks, it's not going to stop because you've been missing them. So you have to completely cut them out. Exactly. And with medication, I don't have the need to stim with food anymore. It's so easy to actually, open a bag of chips and eat it, right? Like, yeah, exactly. Or if you feel sad, like for me at least. The whole relationship with food thing, I think because now you have more control over it, you are kind of rebuilding it from the start. Exactly. And whereas other people may have, from the beginning of their lives, have certain control over what they eat and not, they can start building on that straight away, whereas we can't. So obviously getting the diagnosis, getting medication has really helped you to cope and understand yourself and to heal. But how has that been with your social circle? How did they react to that? I think mostly positive. What I didn't expect is that my parents actually reacted really positive, that they took it seriously from the start. Especially my mom, she deep dived into the internet and researched ADHD and what that is. And that's such a cool mom thing to do. Not just saying no straight away, but actually looking into what that means. Yeah, so, I mean, she tried to understand. She sat me down and asked me why and what and how and what does that mean for you? And I read this and that. How does this apply to you? And that was really precious to me because it made me feel like she's actually taking it serious. Considering, hey, my daughter isn't just stupid and lazy. She actually has a condition. When I was talking to my dad about it, he said, "Samah, if I would have known, of course I would have helped you." And I know that he's like 100% he means it, but he didn't know. This is actually the main thing why I didn't blame my parents, because they didn't know. They reacted accordingly to the professionals around them. If you just met someone, would you be much more careful about saying it? Yeah, it's a very personal thing, right? Like if you want to share your conditions, it's up to you. It's literally something that's affecting our brain, which is a huge thing. Like it's affecting our personality actively every day. It's a very relevant fact, but you don't have to speak about it if you don't want to. But there's so much stigma about mental health
in general, not about ADHD, just ADHD, but about mental health in general. So before I give fuel to people to judge me in a certain way, I actually try to first, get to know me without this information, and then I try to gauge the situation, and then maybe at some point I can tell them that.
It's a good tip to not say ADHD, but just describe it. If you need something like, oh, I'm very distractible, I need to be in a quiet environment, and don't say, oh, I have ADHD. And maybe it helps to avoid the stigma part. But of course, it would be nice if we were to eventually be able to openly speak about it. That's the end goal, but obviously, if you have to protect yourself first, that's one thing you might want to start with.
Like, for example, when I start a new job, I don't tell my new employer that
That's understandable.
It's just they don't need that information about me, right? Like, I don't think that's going to give me any advantage.
No, not before they know who you are. Exactly. Without that. Final question. Thank you so much, by the way, for all of your sharing and your honesty. What would you say to ADHDers, especially ones from your culture? What is your message to people watching?
Okay, all the ADHDers out there, don't think you are less worth just because things are not going perfectly. It's not because you are a failure and everyone is better than you, or because you're stupid or something. It's you have a true condition, and it's something you have to you have to always keep in mind, and don't blame yourself. This is really, really important. Don't blame yourself. And especially for my Arab ADHD out there,
shout out.
I know it can be really, really hard to talk to parents about things like that, especially if you have siblings, overachieving siblings. Maybe if you are in this situation, it's hard, and maybe you have some kind of opportunity to get the validation, maybe online therapy or something like that. I don't know, maybe something like that. Parents who suspect something really weird's going on with their child, I just want to say one thing. It's not your failure. You are not failing with parenting. Your child might be needing help, and disciplining it, like going the discipline route over and over and over again with your maybe ADHD child, it's doing more harm than good.
Wow.